Okay, everybody. So today, the 18th, we're doing a different kind of video. I am going to go over the I Ching with you now. I can't tell you the specifics just yet. I will about the Art of War operation that I have going here. But I will tell you that it's fairly important enough that I have to watch my intentions and make sure that I don't go too far, because I had an I Ching tossing a couple weeks ago that said something about an arrogant dragon will have regret. In other words, have shame. So before making a key decision today, I decided to do a tossing and also share that with you. Share with you how I interpret. So what we're looking at is number 41, decrease. Here is the actual results of my tossing. And you can see here that we have mountain over lake, and mountain over lake, Ken over Tway. Okay, and the fifth line is changing. That's what that means. All right, so I keep around 3/4 just for such a purpose, and it's beyond the scope of this video to teach you how to do that. But if you have trouble, just put a message below. All right, so it says this hexagram represents a decrease of the lower trigram in favor of the upper. You can read along here if you don't own an I Ching. This is the Wilhelm Baines I Ching. If you don't own one, you can go to Panther Web Works I Ching, and you can just do a search there. Because the third line, originally strong, has moved up to the top. The top line, originally weak, has replaced it. What's below is decreased to the benefit of what is above. This is an out-and-out decrease. It all sounds bad so far, right? But pay attention. If the foundations of the building are decreased in strength, if the upper walls are strengthened, the whole structure loses its stability. So actually, this is talking about the opponent that I have asked about. Likewise, a decrease in the prosperity of the people in favor of the government is out-and-out decrease. That's talking about the situation outside in our world in general. And the entire theme of the hexagram is directed to showing how this shift of wealth can take place without causing the sources of wealth in the nation and its lower classes to fail. So they're doing it, they're adjusting the economy to keep the, quote, what I call the floating island up. And the symptom of that is that there are going to be corrupt situations, and those corrupt situations will create these unstable fortresses. The judgment decreased, combined with sincerity. Previously, the last few weeks, I've been repeatedly receiving information from the I Ching and from source that I have to trust God, right? Just going to be very patient and wait. Brings about supreme good fortune without blame. One may be persevering in this. It furthers one to undertake something, which is what I had specifically asked about. I had asked, should I or shouldn't I be involved in this investigation. So how is this to be carried out? One may use 2 bowls for the sacrifice. So 2 bowls here is a specific reference to, in the ancient China, they would have had an altar set up, and there would have been 2 different bowls, probably one for the ancestors and one for the gods. So in this case, for my case, what would be the 2 bowls? I haven't figured that out yet. What I would say is probably having to do with, something empty, perhaps a strategy that is a little bit unorthodox. I don't know. I'll have to do some more meditating on that. Decrease does not, under all circumstances, mean something bad. Increase and decrease come in their own time. What matters here is to understand the time and not try to cover up poverty with empty pretense. If a time of scanty resources brings out an inner truth, one must not feel ashamed of simplicity. And that's okay with me. I don't mind if my business shrinks a little bit. For simplicity is then the very thing needed to provide inner strength for further undertakings. Indeed, there need be no concern if the outward beauty of civilization, even the elaboration of religious forms, should have to suffer because of simplicity. One must draw on the strength of inner attitude to compensate for what is lacking in externals, and then the power of the content makes up for the simplicity of form. There's no need of pretending false appearances to God. Even with slender means, the sentiment of the heart can be expressed. But in all honesty, I'm not poor, and I don't have any excuse to have a poor mentality. So I just I just have to learn to be simple. But at the same time, I'm not that worried about losing wealth, especially in this situation. I really am not that worried about it. At the image at the foot of the mountain, the lake, the image of decrease. Thus, the superior man controls his anger and restrains his instincts. Well, my instincts was, of course, to go forward, and so that's why I stopped and sought the advice of my soul. The lake at the foot of the mountain evaporates. In this way, it decreases the benefit of the mountain, which is increased by its moisture. The mountain stands as a symbol of a stubborn strength and can harden into anger. The lake is the symbol of unchecked gaiety that can develop into passionate drives at the expense of the life forces. Therefore, decrease is necessary. Anger must be decreased by keeping still, and the instincts must be curbed by restriction. By this decrease of lower powers of the psyche, the higher aspects of the soul are enriched. I think it's just obviously just generally good advice. So we skip to the changing line here, which usually the changing lines are where the warnings and specific advice for your situation are contained. 6th and the 5th place means someone does indeed increase him. So in this case, brings my testimony to the forefront. 10 pairs of tortoises cannot oppose it, supreme good fortune. That means that I've already laid all the foundation in my art of war, in my Binghua, it's already laid there. I just show up. And if I show up, there's nothing they can do about it. If someone is marked out by fate for good fortune, it comes without fail. All oracles, as for instance those that are read from the shells of tortoises, as in the Shang dynasty, are bound to concur in giving him favorable signs. He need fear nothing, because his luck is ordained from on high. So then the question just goes back to, what do I want? And those are my favorite hexagrams. What do I want? How do I want to spend my time? And I would urge you, in whatever you're seeking, when you seek an answer from the I Ching, you've got to understand that sometimes it means that this is exactly what's going to happen, and sometimes you have a choice. And when you have a choice, be really careful to analyze, how do I want to spend my qi? How do I want to spend my jing? Outside, there's a lot of compression. We're actually in the middle of a Xia Qi squeeze again. There's some radiation spikes from the coronal holes. And there's a general health warning advisory out today from the Disaster Prediction app, which you should totally get from the Suspicious Observers. It's only a $3 app in the App Store. It's called the Disaster Prediction app. Personally, I feel a bit of a responsibility to provide my help in this instance, and it's what I've prepared for this whole time. And the other side of me thinks, that I have better things to do. I have things that I want to put my chi into, the analysis. I mean, I'm doing right now on the other screen here, I'm doing Bitcoin analysis. So what do I intend to do? I think I will still take this to a meditation and feel what actually happens. It's not about fear. There's nothing to fear. I can totally participate in this investigation and break the opponent. But the question is, what do I want, and what will it gain me ultimately? At some point, you have to let go of frustrations and of anger about the past. So the question is, what's right? And it's not too different from this other situation where, there was a roach in my food and I have to decide whether or not to report it. It's about what's right and also what's worth my time, what's worth my energy. I'm going to be contemplating that, and just to let you know, I don't honestly know everything when I do what I do. I have to seek help. I have to seek advice. There are a lot of places to go for advice. The Bible is a wonderful place to get information. And you can actually do I Ching and use it with the Bible. It's completely possible to mix the two. They come from the same general era of how people thought. Whatever you do, when you confront a situation where you don't know, your head and your heart are in two different places, trust your soul to give you the information that you really, really need to hear. And if you don't have a technique for getting at that, then I definitely recommend the Book of Changes, because it is a technology that is still, unfortunately, although it's obsolete, it's state of the art. And there's a lot of things like that in our world right now, including this acupuncture that I practice. It's obsolete, but it's state of the art, and that's an unfortunate thing. But it is what it is, and humanity, we will improve our lot. As for me and this particular situation, I think it will depend a whole lot on my wife. I will consult with her and see what she thinks. And in general, I will think 3 or 5 times before I make a very excited step in that direction. But if I do, apparently 10 tortoise shells cannot oppose, so there's no stopping me. That's the power of the sure. And it's funny, I was just practicing on I pulled up Red Alert 2 and I was playing yesterday, and I specifically practiced building the sure until the computer quit without me necessarily blowing them up. And I think it's good every once in a while to practice building your sure in that way. Remember, the sure is not exactly a mystical energy. It's just it's a fabric. It's like bending space-time or bending something to your will. It's leverage. It's momentum. Anyhow, I'm just rambling at this point, but I got to go and treat some patients, and I am going to contemplate this. And if you're in a situation where you need to do some contemplation, I hope that you do that today, because it's a good time to think about things in this Yule time. And happy Hanukkah to those who are watching who are of the Jewish faith. See you later.